What's up, everybody? It's JT Sports back to you guys with another video. And in this video, I'm going to be ranking all 32 starting quarterbacks for the 2019 NFL season. Now, before I begin, I'm just going to say that this is just my opinion. You guys are feel free to disagree with me down in the comment section down below, but this is just my opinion. And I'm going to try to be as non-biased as possible. And before I begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel because I upload NFL videos and NFL content daily. And also make sure to hit the bell icon so you're always notified when I upload a new video. So we're going through these rankings from worst to first, and we're going from 32 all the way down to number one. So starting at number 32, I have Kyler Murray and Dwayne Haskins, 32 and 31 respectively. Just because they're rookies, I haven't seen any of them play yet, so I can't even rank them on this list. So I just had them at the bottom. Dwayne Haskins should be the starter according to my Washington Redskins insider. I mean, either Case Keenum or Colt McCoy, one of those guys are going to be released. Probably is going to be Case Keenum. He's probably going to be the odd man. Now the Washington Redskins got him for basically nothing. And Jay Gruden's trying to win now. So if he wants to win now, the best option would be Dwayne Haskins. And also Kyler Murray, you already know that he's going to be starting. They traded away Josh Rosen, so he is definitely the starter. I don't think any of these two quarterbacks are going to be trash. I just couldn't rank them because I never seen them play, so I had them at 31 and 32. Number 30, we have Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen, I feel, has a lot of potential, but was held back by the Arizona Cardinals. Terrible offensive line, the wide receiving core. He had Larry Fitzgerald, who is probably one of the oldest wide receivers still playing, and you had Christian Kirk as well, but that wasn't enough. He was sacked 45 times, which was one of the most in the NFL, and probably the worst offensive line in all of the NFL. Number 29, we have Josh Allen. I don't think Josh Allen is a bad quarterback. He surprised a lot of people. Surprised me actually. And when I mean surprised, I don't mean like he exceeded expectations. I mean he played just how you would expect him to play. He was basically the same flaws that was with him in college when it came to his accuracy was the same issue for him in his rookie season. But his athletic ability, I have to admit, and everybody else, nobody expected Josh Allen to be that doggone athletic. This dude was having highlight juice, highlight spins, running people over, and nobody was expecting this man to be that athletic. Ahead of him, I have quarterback Lamar Jackson. Now, this hurts me a lot because Lamar Jackson is one of my favorite players in the NFL, one of my probably my favorite player in the NFL right now, and it really hurts for me to put him at number 28. No, he led the Ravens to a 6-1 record and led them to the playoffs, but he just needs to improve more as a passer. He's still raw in that department. And also, he was very young, man. He was very young, so he's going to be better going into this season. But he just needs to improve a little bit more before I can rank him ahead of the other guys. At number 27, have Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, by Bengals fans, has been complaining about how average he's been, and I agree, man. But last year he had a pretty solid season. But I mean, still probably one of the most average quarterbacks in the NFL. If he doesn't do good this season, I could expect him to be on his way out. Number 26 had Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, another guy on this list that has a lot of potential, but he's basically the same player that he was at Florida State. Never developed. Still a turnover machine. It seems like he just throws the ball whenever. And sometimes Jameis Winston is a great player when he actually gets going and he's taking care of the ball. He's a top 10 quarterback. But other than that, which is on very few occasions, he's throwing the ball to anybody, turning the ball over. 88 turnovers in like 4 seasons. Going into his fifth year, I have him ranked at number 26. I have Marcus Mariota ranked ahead of him. I don't think Marcus Mariota is a terrible quarterback. It's just that the supporting cast that he had around him hasn't really had a good wide receiving core in Tennessee since his rookie season. And he's also injury prone. So I don't think Marcus Mariota is a bad quarterback. I just had him ranked here because he can't stay healthy. Number 24, I have Eli Manning, man. Eli Manning, I hate how people try to bash him like he's a terrible quarterback. He had a fairly good season last year. He had 20 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, which was probably one of his better seasons in the last couple of years. Actually had a good touchdown to interception ratio, and I think he's going to pretty much have that same production this year going into 2019. So I have him rounding out my first couple of quarterbacks. Next up, we have the quarterbacks 23 through 15. At 23, I have Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold had an okay rookie season. He didn't really have a lot to work with. Quincy Enunwa. You also have Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson is fairly inconsistent. Quincy Enunwa was very consistent, but he's not a guy who's going to make a lot of big plays. He's just a position wide receiver that keeps the chains moving. And the offensive line wasn't that good. Also, in the running game wasn't really that effective as well. So Sam Darnold didn't really have a lot to work with, but he was pretty solid. At number 22, I had Derek Carr. Derek Carr, the drop off has been amazing. I mean, this guy a few seasons ago was pretty much an MVP candidate, and then he has just fallen from grace. I mean, wow, went from an MVP candidate a couple of seasons ago to now number 22 on this list. Definitely a lot of pressure coming on him for this season because next year's quarterback class going into 2020 NFL draft, he most definitely will be replaced if he doesn't live up to expectations for John Gruden and general manager. Whatever his name is, I forgot it. At number 21, I had Nick Foles. Now, Nick Foles, man, I just think he was a good clog in the Philadelphia Eagles system. And now the Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't think he's going to be a bad quarterback. I think he's up. Anybody is an upgrade over Blake Bortles. Heck, you could say Nathan Peterman is an upgrade over Blake Bortles. But Nick Foles, I know he's a Super Bowl champion. I know he's a Super Bowl MVP. But look, you gotta look at what he had with to work with during that Philadelphia Eagles run, and I still think he was more of a system quarterback. And it was a reason why he was a backup quarterback for a reason. It's a reason why they chose to start Carson Wentz over him. So I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I just think he's more a product of that Philadelphia Eagles offense. And then when you go to the LA Rams, he wasn't good also. So I just think he's a product of that system at Philadelphia. Number 20, I had Matthew Stafford. Last offseason, around this time last year, I was making the argument about how Matthew Stafford was a top 10 quarterback, how he was one of the most elite quarterbacks in the NFL. My mind has been changed dramatically. Matthew Stafford, and I swear to God, I'm not making this up. Matthew Stafford is 5-52 in primetime games. That's not what you expect for a guy who you take number one overall. I don't care if he didn't have a lot of talent around him throughout his career. Listen, this guy had Calvin Johnson, couldn't win with Calvin Johnson, one of the best wide receivers of all time. And this guy is he's just very effective at padding his stats, basically. So stats do not tell the story about Matthew Stafford. He's an average quarterback. I have him at number 20. At number 19, I have Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco now part of the Denver Broncos. Joe Flacco has been to me throughout his whole entire career has been average at best. I never considered him an elite quarterback. Joe Flacco is a quarterback. I compare him a lot to Case Keenum in that department. I'm not saying he is Case Keenum, but he's like Case Keenum has to have talent around him to win. And I feel Joe Flacco is in that same category, has to have talent around him to win. And I think he's an average quarterback. At number 18, I have Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky is the thing about Mitchell Trubisky is we still don't know how good he is, but Mitchell Trubisky is just inconsistent. One week he could stink it up, and the next week he can be very, very good. Just want to see a little bit more consistency out of Mitchell Trubisky. At number 17, I had Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is not a quarterback who is going to win you games. He's not a quarterback that's going to, you put the team on his shoulders, tell him to go out and win a game. He's not a quarterback who's going to do that. Dak Prescott is an average quarterback to me, just with pretty good mobility. Has pretty solid accuracy. He's a good game manager in my opinion, but he's not a quarterback who's going to go ahead and win you games. Number 16, I have Kirk Cousins. You can compare him to Matthew Stafford 2.0 with a $84 million guaranteed contract. Kirk Cousins is another guy who can't get it done during the big games. His stats are also padded as well. And at number 15, running out this 23 through 15 rankings, I have quarterback Baker Mayfield. I wanted to rank him higher, but I mean, it was just his first season. But I mean, you got to expect him to become very, very good this year with the additions of Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry in that receiving core. They also had tight end David Njoku, who is very good as well, and Freddie Kitchens as his head coach now, who was Baker Mayfield was pretty effective with when Freddie Kitchens was calling the plays last year. So I had Baker Mayfield at number 15. He was, without a doubt, the best rookie quarterback from that 2018 NFL draft class. Next up at number 14, I have quarterback Jared Goff. Jared Goff, I feel, is a product of the Sean McVay system, just in my opinion. He has pretty solid mobility. He has pretty good accuracy. His arm, I don't know. I think his arm is pretty a little bit above average, but other than that, I just think Jared Goff is a product of the Sean McVay system. But he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the top half of the league. He's a guy who you can actually say go win the game. He can win you a couple of games on his shoulders and stuff like that. At number 13, I had Jimmy Garoppolo. This might be a little bit high to some people, but Jimmy Garoppolo, he's what, like 5-2 as a starter in the NFL. Got injured last season. Jimmy Garoppolo, man, has a pretty impressive track record when he has been playing. You gotta look at what he did his first season with the San Francisco 49ers. What, went 5-0 as a starter and basically didn't have any talent around him. So I would rank him as one of the better half quarterbacks in the NFL, but I just can't rank him no more higher than 13. At number 12, I had Deshaun Watson, man. Deshaun Watson, this guy does it all for the Houston Texans. He makes plays in the running game, make these crazy plays on week to week basis that change the dynamic of the game. And he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. I think within the next couple of years, when some of these guys I have in the top 10 retire, Deshaun Watson will be in that top 10 undoubtedly. Led the Houston Texans to the playoffs this year, and I think he probably is the second best quarterback in the AFC South behind Andrew Luck. At number 11, I have Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, despite what people say about him, Carson Wentz, when healthy, is a pretty good quarterback. This is a guy who would have won the MVP a couple of seasons ago. That year, the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. If he would have stayed healthy, and also if he stayed healthy, the Philadelphia Eagles probably would have also won the Super Bowl, and Carson Wentz probably would have been the Super Bowl MVP as well. At number 10, I have Cam Newton. Now, this might raise a lot of eyebrows, a lot of discussion in the comment section down below. But I do believe that Cam Newton is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. It's not really a lot of quarterbacks that you can look at in the history of the NFL have literally carried their team, and that's not expression. I'm not even trying to be sarcastic. Cam Newton has literally carried the team on his back throughout his first couple of years with the Carolina Panthers. I mean, he was a leading rusher a couple of seasons ago, carried them to the Super Bowl. And even though he might be a little bit inconsistent as a passer from week to week, from time to time, he's still a pretty solid quarterback. He's a top 10 quarterback. He is an elite quarterback. And he basically is the heart and soul of this Carolina Panthers team. And it's not a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL nowadays that are doing what Cam Newton is doing at the elite level with his ability to pass and run the ball. And at number 9, we have Matt Ryan. Now, Matt Ryan is probably the quarterback who doesn't really get talked about a lot. Besides when he won MVP a couple of years ago when the Falcons choked in the Super Bowl, Matt Ryan is a quarterback who has benefited from having a lot of talent around him. He has the best wide receiver, or arguably the best wide receiver in football, Julio Jones. You have Calvin Ridley. You have Mohamed Sanu. The offensive line is now better than what it was last year, but he has pretty much for the last couple of years in his career, despite last season, had pretty solid offensive lines. Matt Ryan, to me, I don't know if you would consider him a Hall of Famer, but I would consider him nearing that Hall of Fame status. At number 8, I have Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck coming back from injury last season showed that he still is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Took the Indianapolis Colts to the playoffs, despite not having the most talented roster. And that's the thing about Andrew Luck that has always impressed me. He always does the most with very little. Now, this is probably the best roster that he has had in some times. And I think he's the 8th best quarterback on this list. Number 7, Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers still getting it done. Without a doubt, will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Has a lot of talent around him now. The biggest thing about Phillip Rivers is a guy who can he get this Chargers team to the Super Bowl? That's the question. He still has a lot of prime left, and he doesn't show any signs of slowing down. Rounding out this list before we get into the top 5, I have quarterback Big Ben Roethlisberger. Now, I'm a Steelers fan. I'm People are saying that he's regressing overall and not, but you have to look at it this way. He led the NFL in passing yards last year, had over 5,000 yards. He is the motor that makes the Pittsburgh Steelers offense go because a lot of people want to say Big Ben is carried by talent. Did you guys not see how bad we were when Landry Jones was the quarterback when Big Ben missed a couple of games a few seasons ago? So if Big Ben gets injured, it's done for the Pittsburgh Steelers. No playoffs, no nothing. Big Ben is that motor that makes the Pittsburgh Steelers offense go, and he has been putting up some phenomenal stats for the last couple of seasons. Big Ben is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. He might be regressing a little bit, but not at a terrible rate that will make him, want to take him out of this top 10. And now we get into the top 5 of this list. At number 5, I have quarterback Russell Wilson. This guy does it all for Seattle. He's a magician back there. This guy consistently, week in and week out, puts up great numbers, especially when you think about what he does from a fantasy standpoint. One of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, top 5 at his position. That shouldn't cause no debate in the comment section. Number 4, we had Patrick Mahomes. NFL MVP last season. No way, without having the season he had last year, can you not put him in that top 5 category. At number 3, we had Drew Brees. Drew Brees still getting it done. I think he had the highest completion percentage in the NFL last season, completing over 70% of his passes. Still one of the better quarterbacks. Probably I think he's a top 3 quarterback. That's why I have him at top 3. Drew Brees, man, very, very good quarterback. Um, been putting up good numbers for the New Orleans Saints all throughout his New Orleans Saints career. And at number 2, we have Tom Brady. Tom Brady, without a doubt, is the GOAT, the greatest quarterback of all time. We don't know if he's a system quarterback or if he's just a good quarterback. We will never know that because he is most likely going to retire as the New England Patriots whenever he does choose to retire, probably when he turns 70 years old. And the impressive thing is he's in his 40s, still putting up very good numbers. 29 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, over 4,000 passing yards, and led his team to a another Super Bowl win. So Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time. He's the second best quarterback in the NFL. Number 1, we have Aaron Rodgers, who to me is the most talented quarterback in NFL history. You'll never find a quarterback ever again in NFL history to have good arm, good accuracy, high football IQ, and ability to make big plays with his feet. Aaron Rodgers does it all. Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL, probably the greatest quarterback of all time when it comes to talent and athleticism. When we're talking about from a talent perspective, we're not talking about in that Tom Brady discussion. We're just talking about talent wise. Aaron Rodgers is probably the greatest or most gifted quarterback in NFL history. And that's it for ranking all 32 starting quarterbacks for the 2019 NFL season. Let me know down in the comment section down below which quarterbacks were too high, which quarterbacks were too low. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And thanks for watching.